You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Well, they're up to and at it all over again, folks. The lying. Now, starvation, hunger, famine, right? One of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. People dying, suffering from starvation. The same way people die and suffer because of war, because of pestilence or disease. We are being played, all of us, as idiots in this world stage. But you and I aren't idiots. We're preppers, we're patriots, we're thinking people. We have common sense, we have critical thinking skills. But the, how shall we say this? The access to information is pretty important. The ability to communicate is pretty important. And getting more information out is absolutely critical. That's why I want to thank you guys for supporting this channel, by being here, by watching, by sharing always the video link so other people can watch, learn, and come to a decision or a conclusion that makes sense, right? So we've got this war in Ukraine. And at first it was about, the aggressive Russians. And then they scared us with threats of all sorts of war, manner of war, whether it's nuclear or biological or chemical attacks, nuclear accidents, atrocities being committed. They've tried everything they can to get the world to engage in their lie and to give them, support, including calling for direct support. Send your equipment, send your clothes, send your guns, send yourselves to Ukraine. Well, now the United Kingdom is backing Lithuania's plan for a naval protective corridor, to lift the Russian blockade of Ukraine ports. See, again, it's Russia's fault. Russia. All of this is Russia. But it's about food. It is becoming about food. That is their newest. And it's been there all along, and you and I have discussed it. You and I for months have intelligently discussed how much food Ukraine produces, how it's important that their farming should be allowed to continue. Right? If food, hunger, is the most important thing, why are we having a war where we make our food? You do not, right, crap in your kitchen. Yet here we are. And who started this crap war? Who started flinging poop? That would be NATO and Zelensky flinging poop at Russia and attacking, right, hurting people in the breakaway republics within Ukraine who said, we're tired of being abused by Zelensky and his Azov battalion. There's a lot of reasons for what's happened, but how it's being used is incredible. So let's get into this a little bit, folks. We understand that this is political theater. We understand that these politicians, we're going to back Lithuania's plans for a naval protective corridor. It is grandstanding. It is giving false hope and fear porn to the people at the same time at its finest. This is to be viewed, in my opinion, in terms of gaslighting the world to the Western European audience in the United States of America. Right? Gaslighting, lying to our face and expecting us to believe it as truth. Right? Now, they want to have a protective corridor so the food can come out. I mean, how many times in our lives have we seen the starving children on TV? Right? And send us your money, right? Tugging at your heartstrings, starvation, hunger. Well, it is a real problem. And the people who stand in the way of it are the very same people who pretend that they want to fix it, right? Now, there is an agreement in place that prohibits entry into the area by the military, by nations. And it's not just Russia that is prohibiting entry, folks. Now, Turkey controls the Strait of Bosphorus, which leads from the Black Sea into the Mediterranean and out to the free world. Turkey controls that. And as a NATO member, one would think that Turkey would be all pro go get them against Russia, but they aren't. right? I still believe that Turkey is playing both sides of this and leans heavily towards Russia in many cases, buying Russian S-400 missile systems, for example. So Turkey has a part to play in this, but they're not happy with what Finland and Sweden. Once again, if this is about food, open things up. But if this is about food and food only, why do we need military ships? Are Russians really blocking the ports? Is this a blockade the way the British did to the United States of, the American colonies back in the 1700s? So here we have British grandstanding when in fact they have been a country that has used blockades to stop food literally over hundreds of years. But now they're the good guys. So we should just, listen. Oh yeah, they can learn their lesson. They can see their fault in their ways and change. But really, who is at fault? Who is doing this? Who is causing this pain and suffering? Right? We'll get into that more in just a few moments. The real reason the ports and shipping were closed in many or all of the locations in and around Ukraine was because Ukraine put explosive mines in the water to detonate upon impact any vessel in the area, folks. Could that be what has damaged and sank Russian naval vessels? Russia has been trying to remove the mines and clear the waterways and ports for safe passage. What good would shiploads of grain be if they're sitting on the floor of the sea, right? Fish food. Right? Is it safe to put ships in and out of there trying to carry grain just to be sank by a bunch of mines? And I think it was 420 mines that Zelensky put in there. What message was he saying there? Anyways, I digress. Ukraine is the reason for this, folks. The problem here is political chicanery for profit, and the world is seeing a hunger issue on the horizon as a consequence of the decisions and actions taken by all players in this game. Whether you're talking about Russia and Ukraine, or NATO and the European Union, whether you're talking about NATO countries that have antagonized this situation, the United States of America, Finland and Sweden, Turkey, everyone's got, shall we say, some responsibility to bear here. But everyone who's doing this seems to be in it for their own selfish interests. Now, the problem here is political BS and chicanery for profit. And the world is seeing hunger as an issue on the near horizon, right? If not just a massive inflation issue that, first world nations are going to have to suffer, right? Imagine living in a small, non-powerful country and having to rely on imports, right, from these larger nations and food producers for survival. You would be praying for Ukraine to surrender to Russia so that food could more quickly be released. Instead, the money hustle continues as politicians and business tycoons, aka European and American oligarchs, continue to push for fighting for their wealth investments and their profits, stealing Ukrainian assets. Right? If we're supposed to be concerned about hunger, starvation, food shortages, let's make that the priority instead of supporting Zelensky and his political efforts to flip the bird at Russia, to threaten Russia with nuclear missiles. Because that's really what this comes down to. Ukraine, Zelensky should surrender so this can be ended. And once again, Ukraine, they're the ones who put the mines in the ports and closed them. There is no Russian blockade. There are two sides to this story, folks. One side says no blockade. The other side says there's a blockade. And for the media, folks, let's put on a show, right? Blame Russia. Acknowledge that farming, food, and SHTF hunger is happening. Then offer non-workable solutions that these politicians are coming out with that will fail anyways, just to make the people of the world think the Western nations are trying to fix the problem. It's all grandstanding lies and bullshit. We're going into deeper harder, more difficult SHTF times. Are you prepared? We'll talk more about this later. Thank you for supporting the channel. We have to get information out, folks. Well, we need it for ourselves, and then we need to help others. That's really what this channel is about, is spreading information so people can make their own decisions. We know that the powers that be, we know that social media and that big tech would love to silence any dissenting opinion. So we only have one thing to believe, one thing to think about, be it a lie or a truth. Don't you think we should decide? Right? And so, yeah, Ukraine and starvation. Whose fault is this? Who caused this? Who perpetuated it? Who is still perpetuating it? Who is still calling for more war and conflict instead of peace talks? It's going to get bad, folks. Get prepared, because chance favors the prepared mind. Semper Fi. Godspeed.